Thank you for tuning in to the Failed Podcast. I am your host, Sam Iscavell. Here at the Failed Podcast, we focus on failures and challenges that our guests have experienced, along with the lessons that they have learned. Our hope is that you learn from their lessons, and if you're facing challenges, maybe one of our guests can encourage you to keep going. Through the power of conversation and asking the right questions, we hope to leave you with insight and wisdom that can help you face your failure and challenges. On behalf of the Failed Podcast, thank you for listening. And now we want to welcome our guest. He has a funny name, but he's doing some serious things. Jiggadrin from the A7E Podcast. How you doing, my man? Thank you for coming on. How are you?
Brother, I'm doing so good, man. Honestly, like I told you a little bit earlier, this is the earliest podcast I've ever done. But I think it's going to be a phenomenal time, man. I'm super excited to be here on the Failed Podcast. You're doing ridiculously amazing things over there. I've been waiting for a long time. Every day I wake up, I'm like, is today the day that Sam's going to message me, to do, So I'm here. I'm excited.
And you're in Edinburgh, Texas. I put it on my Instagram. So we are connected via the internets, and so this is interesting for me. We've had a few glitches before. Right now, when we started recording, see, look, I forgot to. There you go. You're listening to the Failed Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I push record on my recorder, and so I need to get better at this because I'm reaching out to a lot of people from everywhere, and I just don't have this card in my deck, and so now I just want to get. I prefer in person. But we'll see. I think this is going to work. We did come on together about 6 months ago, and I thought it went really well. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed our conversation. So tell me a little, okay, what podcasts are you doing? How's the weather where you're at? And, just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get rolling.
Yeah, man. So I'm the host of the A7E Podcast down here right now. My full name is Adrian Elisario. And believe it or not, the number 7 essentially, and we can probably get into this a little bit later, but I've played sports my whole life, specifically soccer. And the number 7, I first got that number or wore that number on the jersey when I was 7 years old. And I wore it throughout my whole career. So it's just a number that has a lot of significance to me. And so the A7E Podcast is for my first name, my number, and then my last name. So yeah, and down here, weather's phenomenal. I prefer more cold than hot, to be honest. It got super cold last night. Was not expecting it, but we got the heater on now. We're ready to roll.
So here at the Failed Podcast, we like to focus on, it's funny, but failures and challenges, okay? But not in a negative way, because I'm obviously watching what you're doing. I'm hearing the message that you're putting out there. So you've obviously grown and learned from your failures and challenges in life. And so that's why I wanted you on the Failed Podcast. And so to begin, we just kind of talk about where you were born and raised, a little bit about your childhood. How was home life? What do you remember from being young, whether it was some challenges at school, growing up? Tell us a little bit about who you were when you were little.
Yeah, man. So born and raised in a very extremely small town called Frostproof, Florida. It's in Central Florida. I always describe it like this. If anyone's familiar with Florida at all, the two essentially most popular cities is probably going to be something like, or in the central areas, Orlando and Tampa. And I'm right in between both. So very small town, very country, a lot of land, a lot of space. And yeah, man, I had a phenomenal childhood, honestly, thinking back. And I owe that all to my parents. They really prioritized me and my brothers growing up in a very close, just trying to have the most fun type of way. They really did a good job in showing, the type of love that they had for us and the things that they wanted they wanted us to be happy, and we were. Yeah, I was super close with my siblings, super close with my parents.
How many brothers and sisters you got?
I got 2 brothers, one older one and one younger one. So I'm definitely the middle child in this, situation here.
Yeah.
So
now
yeah.
You used the word phenomenal when you grew up. What about it do you remember that just makes you smile when you think about it?
Man, well, first the relationship that all of our family had together as a unit. It's not even about my relationship that I have with my parents. it's also the relationship that I could see that my brothers also had with my parents. And, I spent maybe 85% of my childhood playing soccer, right? And from what I would assume birth or whatever, it just was something that was such a passion for me, and it was the true definition of happiness for me when I was a child. And my parents were soccer fanatics, so the more that I played, the happier they were, and the more that I played, the happier I was as well.
Okay, good. So we're gonna. Okay, I didn't prepare for this, but it came to my head right now. The World Cup. Okay.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, dude? To me, I'm gonna tell you, I don't watch a lot of soccer. I love the top players. I love big tournaments and stuff. To me, it was amazing, bro. There was a time now that I was celebrating. I had told my daughter, "We got it, no worries." And then Mbappe scores like in 2 minutes when I did that, and I'm like, "No, it is." And it was so crazy. How do you sum up this the 2020? Was it 2022 World Cup? How was it for you?
Bottom line, simple. It was the absolute best World Cup that's existed in the last, you're talking maybe 50 years. Like just the final, the World Cup final was the best performance from the top two teams in the world. And it was so much drama, so much excitement. You couldn't really stay in your seat, for too long before having to just get up and yell at some point.
Who were you rooting for?
So I was from the very beginning.
I'm joking.
Yeah. From the very beginning, I made a prediction that Argentina and France were going to be in the final. I did predict that France was going to take it, but I would have loved for Argentina to take it, and they took it. So I was happy either way, and it was perfect.
Dude, there's just something about watching Messi dribble that ball and the way he does it, and when he just scores. I just love the way he celebrates and the way his team embraces him. Like, it says a lot of who he is off of the field. It was a great World Cup. I mean, like you said, dude, I couldn't sit in my seat, man. As soon as I did, I had to get up either because I was mad or because I was glad. But I was getting up for one of those. Boy, it was crazy. Anyways, bro, I knew it was one of the best, but I didn't. You being a soccer person, you could say then kind of help me with that. Okay, All right, man. When did you start playing soccer?
Man, Sam. As far as I can remember, I have to kind of go back to my parents on this to tell me, and they told me when I was late 3 years old, early 4 years old on my own, I'd grab the ball, start kicking the ball, and it was something that my parents had to make a physical effort to take the ball away from me because it's just all I wanted to do was just kick the ball around. So I remember vividly my first, soccer competitions or being on a team when I was late 6 years old, early 7 years old.
And were you dominating? Like, the other teams or wherever you were, did they know, okay, this guy's a standout soccer player, or were you just the best soccer player in the world in your home?
No, so I was a standout, and our town is relatively small. The town next to us is relatively small, so it's easy to be a standout, even if you're at an average level or above average. But yeah, I definitely was a standout, and a lot of people knew that first who my parents were because they were the parents of Adrian or whatever, because he was a good player.
Yeah. So, and you played for a long time, and when you're little, it's hard to kind of know where you're at level wise. What age did you finally get to where you said, I am good, I am dominating, I need a good coach, I need a good team, and you went from $20 shoes to $100-something cleats, because you were just going to another level. When did that happen? It happened in middle school? Did it happen in high school? You played a little bit in college. When did that happen for you?
Yeah, great question. I actually remember the specific moment that I realized, hey, I actually think I'm much better than I thought I was, but I didn't have the ability or, I guess, awareness to think that I need a coach specifically to develop me further physically and you know, technically. So at 11 years old, I was playing. I always played with grown men. Like, I never played with kids my age. So I was always very competitive in that nature. I was 11 years old and I was playing with 19-year-olds, 25-year-olds, you know, 30-year-olds. And of course, you know, physically they have to kind of measure it out a little bit, because if they want, they could break me in half at that point, right? But in a small town like that, where everybody knew me, there's a lot of respect there. And I remember doing something that essentially where my feet took over my thought process, and it was something that was second nature to me. And that's when I realized, hey, like, I am a little bit better than I thought I was. But so I would say about seventh grade is when I just kind of took things a little bit to the next level. I did want to explore, you know, the next level of cleats. Didn't get into the $100 range yet, but I was very close. I mean, for whatever my parents could do. But I would say super, super serious when I really thought, hey, this is what I need to get a trainer now. If I don't, I have no chance at the next level. It was when I was in the 11th grade, junior.
11th grade. Okay. Now, what was your self-talk or conversation with your coach and your parents, as far as, because we all are playing like sports in high school and, you know, NFL and the soccer and the, you know, being a professional baseball, basketball player, all of it, it's too easily said. And so I hear that from so many people, and yet the pool for those professionals at the highest level is super little. You know what I mean? Like, it takes a unique individual to do it. But when did you start making that your goal? We say, man, I'm gonna end up being a pro. I'm walking around here. I am Kobe. Like, this is who I am at school. Did that happen? And how was that time for you?
Well, I'll tell you what, Sam. Honestly, one thing that I did lack is that confidence that you just described there. So I believed that I was really good, but I lacked the ability to believe further, and I lacked the ability to have the confidence like I was the greatest, right? So that kind of kept me from going over the edge too much, and I think in a negative way. But specifically, again, I remember all these moments in my life because this is how important it was to me. I was in the 11th grade, going into the 11th grade, and I told my mom, hey, Mom, like, this is a very small town. I think this town lacks opportunity for people for exposure and whatnot. And I said, hey, I want to look for an opportunity wherever it is. And if I find one, will you let me take it on? And she said, yes. So coincidentally, I did find an opportunity at 16 years old down here in South Texas when soccer was booming, but with good exposure. So my mom let me move to Texas on my own, you know, to explore that opportunity, which I did. And it was phenomenal. It was a great opportunity, great experience. I leveled up in my abilities, but I ain't gonna lie. I got homesick. I came back to the parents, but with that ability and that level up, I was able to dominate even more when I came back to the hometown.
And then, so now you're leveling up, and then to me, it's like whenever you're like schooling those around you, it does something to your confidence, man. It just makes you believe in yourself more and more. And then the thoughts of really what's next, how do I keep growing happen. Tell me a little bit about when you started thinking about the next level. Like, at some point you have to say, you know, it's just going to be for a scholarship. It's just for fun. When did that go away? And when did you start thinking a little bit bigger?
Oh, man, great question. So I'm going to be honest, Sam, like, you can even ask my parents. They always would ask me when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, they would ask me, what do you want to do? It's like, I want to be a professional soccer player. So it was always that serious for me. I did lack the guidance, you know, growing up, because my parents came from a very, you know, humble, you know, background where, you know, they both came from Mexico. They didn't have any knowledge on anything. All they knew was work and provide for family. Anything outside of that, they also had to learn. So I did lack guidance from, you know, even my high school coach, who I love to death. You know, people will have mixed feelings about our high school coach, but there wasn't much done from him, like in regards to placing people in opportunities for exposure, right? Once you finished high school, you were essentially on your own to kind of just take steps in the direction that you wanted to. Now, when was I thinking about the next level for real? Probably the very first day that I stepped into my first year of college soccer.
Yeah. Yeah, this is it. From here.
Yeah, I was like, this is the next level from where I was at. I need to work and prepare for the next level from where this is at.
And that nowadays, when you think about the peak of soccer with like Ronaldo signing that $200-something million 1-year contract, and then they're offering Messi 300, I think, 300 million for a year. Things are changing. When you were saying, dude, pro, man, I'm thinking I can make it all the way. That's a big statement for a young person. And we don't realize this till we get older on how naive we were. Like, we don't realize what standout athletes or talented people, what they look like compared to what we, like, the confidence tells us we look like. It's very far apart. When I look at like LeBron or Kobe playing and they were in high school, they dominated. Like, you're talking 100 and something points to 50 or to 30. That's how much they stood out in their, when they were playing. And so here's a question I'm going to hit you with. How does one deal with visualizing themselves making it? Okay, so we're going to go back to your high school years and as you got into college. But later in life, things look different, right? Because you still have to think about, this is Adrian back in the day, and then now we look at Adrian today, and you're not playing soccer, and that was such a big part in your life. How do you come to terms with that? And I say it in the sense that it's difficult. It can almost be traumatizing, or and I'm not saying for you, but in general, it could be embarrassing for someone to say, or meet someone from the past and say, hey, dude, I thought you were going to make it. What happened? And you kind of have to just say, it's just life. It's not negative, but it's just life. How did you deal with that?
Man, Sam, you're hitting a specific
deep,
question.
Bro. I'm digging.
No, and that's fine with me. No, so that has always been something that's been a part of me that I've always thought about, and I've never been embarrassed about it at all. On the contrary, I'm proud to say what I've been able to accomplish from where I come from. From the all of the things that I lacked and where I ended up being able to play and the people that I've been able to meet. I truly believe, technically, to my technical abilities, I fulfilled my potential. And only a certain group of people in my life know that. And they were able to witness that firsthand. So, and
we have one of those people on the phone right now. Let me bring him into the convert. I'm joking.
Oh, yeah, imagine a second line.
I just wanted to make you laugh. Anyway, that was great. Okay, go.
But yeah, so I mean, definitely not embarrassed. Now, how does one kind of deal with that? Yep. The reality is, Sam, is you really don't ever fully deal with it. It's just like any other pain that you come across in life. You just kind of learn to live with it. I have close friends that have been in the same boat as me who have achieved higher level of the game and who were just so much closer than I was. And we speak sometimes, and I've seen people in my same situation break down. So the reason we have such a hard time, whether it be soccer, basketball, whenever you have dreams or aspirations of becoming a professional soccer or a professional sports player in your respective sport, and you have a hard time dealing with it later on in life whenever you weren't able to achieve that, it's simply because you really start realizing that your whole identity, your whole life, who you are as a person, everything you learned, the people you met was built around that sport. And you start to ask yourself, if I'm not going to do this anymore, what am I going to do? Who am I after this? And you essentially, believe it or not, it feels like you're starting over as a person. And it's difficult because the one thing that you were so sure of is gone. And now you really have to just wonder what's next. And not knowing the answer is sometimes the scariest thing that could ever happen to you.
I mean, I remember in school seeing people that were super smart, they were like the president, they were speaking, they were this and that. And then you see them now 10 plus years later, and I'm not knocking on no one, but they're so far from that individual. They're, and you're like, what happened? And for them, they're just like, it was just life. But from you, you're like, dude, I really thought that you were going to be the next president, and you're not. That's hard for a lot of people. Do you consider it, and I know you don't, but I have to ask it, do you consider it a letdown that you didn't reach what you had in your mind? And how do you trust that your efforts now are in the right direction if your efforts then didn't reach the peak? How do you trust yourself again to say, I'm going to go in deep on this because I'm the best? Wait a minute. Last time I thought I was the best and I was going to be, Messi was going to be my teammate, and then he's not. How do you deal with that?
Yeah. So that specifically, now, do I think it was a letdown? Not for me as a person in my life, but I do believe that it was a letdown for the sport itself. And the only reason I say that is because I believe, and I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but believe it or not, I've always been a very big fan of my soccer style. And I believe that I really had a lot to offer in regards to entertainment. The sport. I always felt like if I could get to a specific stage, on a bigger stage, that people would also enjoy my style of soccer, right? Now, how do I deal with that? One thing that I've noticed, the difference between of how I was before mentally and how I am now, is that before I would say that I was really good, but there is a massive difference now, Sam, from the confidence compared to what I had before. So now in anything that I do, I understand and I truly believe that any task you take on now, you have to have a certain level of confidence and true belief that regardless if you are factually the best or not, if you don't believe that you're the best at whatever you're doing, you're already at a disadvantage. So if at the end of the day you have to feel a certain way, why not feel like you're the best to ever do it? Why not feel like you're exactly what this space needs? So that's kind of, yeah.
That's great. Here's why I love it, because we're talking to people who are looking at their past and saying, I'm disappointed in that person because he didn't achieve what he told everyone and what everyone was investing in him for. But he still has to wake up today and say, you know what, I believe in that guy. The same guy that had those thoughts then can have them today. Because how else could you approach doing something if you don't believe in yourself? And so I'm going to hit you with a few things. And I know, guys, this show seems a little on the negative side. It isn't. I'm talking to individuals who grew up and didn't achieve their full potential. Not because of anything, because they weren't good or what. No, it's just sometimes you just don't. But you still have to deal with it, 5, 10, 15 years later in life. As you reflect, you have to say, is it going to bother me? Is it going to bring me down? And for some people, it does. But Adrian, you are the example of it not. And that's why I wanted to put this out there and zero in on your soccer journey. Okay. So I'm going to hit you with a few things and you just give me your thoughts. Okay. And so people who don't achieve their goals often face a variety of emotional and psychological challenges. Okay. And they include this. The first one is disappointment, not necessarily in the moment or just in that time, but later in life. And so disappointment is, this is perhaps the most common and immediate reaction when someone doesn't reach their goals. People can feel let down, frustrated, and discouraged. When did you have to face that, and how have you overcome it?
Oof, man, disappointment and discouraged is the only emotions that I felt whenever I really decided that, hey, like I'm at an age now where, maybe teams are just no longer looking for, or looking to recruit people like me, especially at this age. So 24, 25 years old, that's when I just kind of took a step back. Now, don't get me wrong. I still enjoy soccer. I still play, but like very rarely. So it started becoming more about just enjoyment rather than competition or a job. But 24, 25, I took a step back and I'm like, damn, like I'm 25 already and it didn't happen, so it's pure negative. It's pure negative in that very moment. What you feel discouraged. You feel like you let everybody down, especially yourself. and disappointment. You're disappointed in the way things went. You're grateful, but you're disappointed at the same time because, of course, you wanted it to go better. And now the way that I deal with it is okay, really think about the effort and everything that you did back then towards what you wanted to achieve. If that wasn't good enough, then you have to understand right now that whatever you choose to do moving forward, you have to do double or 10 times more than the effort if you want a true chance at achieving whatever goals that you have now moving forward. So the amount of effort now is what I compare to what I put in back then. And now I understand that I need to 10x that effort to have the chance of, achieving the things that I want to do moving forward.
Another thing that happens when an individual doesn't achieve their goals and they put so much into that effort is self-doubt is present. And this can lead people to question their own abilities and whether they have what it takes to succeed. Now, you had that ability, like you had confidence then. When did and how have you dealt with self-doubt now whenever you are trying to step into things and say, well, is it worth it? Do I keep going? That self-talk that keeps you from taking that step forward. How do you deal with self-doubt?
Sam, so one of the things that I used to put a lot of emphasis on, and I think it's natural for anyone, they really put a lot of emphasis on the way that people see them and perceive them. Whether it's tough. It's tough when people know what your dream is. It's tough when people know exactly what you're shooting for and they're watching you every single step of the way. Oh, yeah. And, you kind of feel like, damn, like if I don't make this happen, all of those people who are watching me, like, they were right. They get the laugh, they get the last laugh type of thing. Yeah. And that's kind of the self-doubt talk. So moving forward, I've been able to manage to get to a point where I no longer prioritize the way other people see me. I have truly gotten to a point where my opinion of myself matters more than the way others, see me. Now, that's not to say that you're wrong about what you're saying about me. That whoever's speaking to me, the third eye of reason, I say, could be completely correct. But I take that and I process that much differently now. So moving forward, self-doubt, I reflect a lot. I approach like everything is going to be a win. And the only way you can prove to me that is not a win or that I'm not doing it right is if whatever I'm doing truly factually does not work out or shows that I did it incorrectly. But up until that point, I will believe that I am doing the right thing and I will go full confidence with it.
Self-doubt, it gets in the way a lot for a lot of people. And sometimes it's real. Like when I do things, I'm going in because I think I'm the best. A few years from now, the failed podcast, it may not exist. I may have failed like epically. Yeah. But right now, I'm telling myself like I am like the Latino Joe Rogan,
yes.
And that's how I got to roll because I got to show up. But anyways, that's just a hard thing to deal with. Another thing that people deal with whenever they don't reach their goals is a lack of motivation. When goals aren't met, people may feel less motivated to keep working towards their goals, leading them to not achieving anything big. So what keeps you motivated? You're doing this podcast. The world's watching, whether it is the world or not, but you're putting yourself out there and there has to be motivation to do it. Talk to me about how you've overcome the challenge of motivation or lack of motivation.
So motivation is difficult, and I've come to realize that motivation comes and goes, man, so quickly. I've always said that motivation gets you started and discipline it's what allows you to finish, right? But what keeps me motivated is knowing that I feel like I have a certain ability to speak to everyone. I've also been aware that I can adjust to almost every single personality out there. And I've been able to prove that in some situations specifically. I have best friends. I'm best friends with people that other people do not like at all, right? Like, and I'm truly best friends with them and vice versa. So I have an ability to adapt to what I've considered so far every single personality I've come across with, and genuinely, not for any manipulation reasons. Like I'm okay with adapting to you so we can have a good relationship, and maybe we can exchange wisdom, we can exchange value, stories, or anything that we might be able to help each other out with. And that motivates me. That motivates me moving forward to, don't get me wrong, I still get nervous, when I speak to people that I don't know very well. I got nervous whenever you invited me onto the podcast, right? You good? Can you hear me? I can't hear you. You cut off on me. Yeah. Sorry, guys. We have some technical difficulties here. We are growing as a podcast. We are doing our very best to reach as many people as possible. My friend Sam Esquivel, no audio from you. No worries. This is the learning process. This is one of the failures that we're coming across. You got two options here. Fail completely, stop, give up, or do your best to find a solution and keep going.
Yeah. No, this is good. I got you. I'm recording you on my end. And then at this point, I'll just cut the video and then I'll put it'll just be audio.
Okay.
All right. So it's going to be a little different, guys, if you are watching or listening, because I can't see him now. So we kind of so I usually interrupt, but it might seem a little more rude now, but I don't mean anything by it, Adrian. I'm just going to jump in and jump out, and you do the same as well. And we'll just try to kind of connect it like through the space and time. Okay.
Absolutely.
And so we were talking about lack of motivation, but since I lost my train of thought, I'm going to jump forward to low self-esteem. People who don't reach their goal may feel as if they are not good enough or that they have failed. This can lead to feeling inadequate and, just continue low self-esteem. How did that bother you in the beginning, and how have you overcome it now? Because to have a podcast and do what you're doing and be highly motivated, you overcame it.
Yeah. So, man, self-esteem is definitely one of those silent killers that a lot of people deal with that you can't really see from the exterior very often. But yeah, I mean, especially when you go down, through a letdown of that degree, low self-esteem is definitely going to be something that you have to deal with. You can't run from it. I've always been a person that just really tries to, focus on overcoming any obstacle to that degree. But again, I think one of the important things that people need to understand is that you have to be able to identify the obstacle first. And, low self-esteem was definitely one of those obstacles. So I've been able to just kind of identify that, take specific steps that allow me to gain confidence, even if it's, an inch at a time or 12 inches at a time, whatever it may be, getting to me a point where I feel good, established, solid self-esteem, and then moving forward, gain confidence and momentum on whatever it is that I'm doing.
Feeling frustrated and angry. If a person feels that they didn't reach their goals, it almost leads to a negative feeling about when other people share their goals, or even just approaching new goals. When did you ever have to deal with like being upset and angry when someone would ask you, or you would have to talk about it? And how did you bring yourself to talk about it now in a more positive way?
So yeah, I've been frustrated before, and it's not even that I have to because I like talking about it. But where it gets frustrating a little bit is when people try to ask me on a 1-2 minute conversation.
Yeah,
It's like, if you really want to know the story, then let's talk. I love to share. I would love to share with you everything that I've been able to accomplish and not accomplish, the experiences I was able to achieve. But don't ask me to talk about it, on a minute, 2-minute conversation on your way to, I don't know, on the way to the gym or something, right? Like,
yeah.
but no, I definitely don't get upset about it. I love talking about it. And just to kind of hit a little bit of a quick point that you just made there, even when people achieve other things, I've never struggled with being happy for other people whenever they've achieved even the same goal or dream that I've had, even if I might have quick opinion on my level or abilities versus theirs, right? Even if I
Yeah.
thought that maybe that I was better or I deserved it, maybe more than them for whatever reason, I've always been able to be truly happy and genuine for other people. And I think that's also helped with me, overcoming those negative emotions a lot quicker.
These challenges can be difficult to overcome, but it's important to remember that setbacks are a normal part of the process of achieving any goal. With time, patience, and perseverance, most people are able to overcome their challenges and find success. Tell me a little bit about the benefits and some of the things that are helping you now from going through this journey of thinking of yourself and your skills very highly and having to transfer those into accomplishing other things that maybe aren't so related to soccer.
Yeah, so it's hard to be in a space now where, yeah, you can twist it and you can turn it a little bit to make a competitor for the most part, right? And there's just a difference whenever your ability is dealt specifically with being competitive and against other people. And I mean, that was also a part of the fun, of the journey. And now it's having to realize that it's not so much of a competition now, right? On the contrary, I think a very big benefit of podcasting is being able to do episodes and podcasts with others, to kind of help each other gain some exposure and whatnot. So it's in the space that I'm in now, I feel like it's more less of a competition and more about just being better at whatever it is. So having to transition from a peer competition mindset to a mindset where now let's just focus on getting better and enjoying the process, of the journey is kind of it was a little weird for me at first, but I think I got to a point where I'm super comfortable now, and I'm starting to explore and think to myself, okay, you know what, we're 41 episodes in. I've had a few guests on. What else can I do, and how
Mhm.
can I take this up a notch? So that's starting to catch my attention and be a little bit more interesting now.
And what inspires you? We'll go ahead and segue into the podcasting journey that you're on, and what inspired you, and what inspires you on an episode, to do the next one as a podcaster, and what do you enjoy about podcasting the most?
Yeah, so what inspires me, Sam, is knowing that there's so many versions of this life that we experience. There's so many versions that only different people experience, and you'll never know about it unless you talk to other people. And thinking that you see life in a different way than I do is very, very interesting to me, because the reality is, to me, life is yes, you're living your life in a specific way, but outside of you, life is so infinite. Life, there's so many infinite versions of it. And the only way you can truly capture that is through conversations with other people. And that's what motivates me. That's what's motivated me. That's also what motivates me, to get on the next guest and kind of see things from their perspective, as much as possible.
Okay, I'm about to hit you with some deep questions. Okay, so get ready.
Let's go.
What is the most important lesson that you've learned in life?
Most important lesson that I've learned in life. Um, I would have to say that I think when you start when you start out with life, I believe that you start in the passenger seat. I truly believe that we are in the passenger seat of our own life
Mm.
until we gain some type of consciousness and awareness that allows us to realize that at any moment when you are in that passenger seat, you are solely relying on where life is taking you. But at any moment, you can jump into that driver's seat and go wherever it is that you would like to go. So, realizing that at any moment you can take full control of your life is one of the things that has completely changed my whole view on this existence as, on its own. And to me, that's one of the things that I always try to tell people, even off of the podcast, is if you're not happy with what's going on right now, or if you feel like you want to do more, then just jump into the driver's seat and just take some action. And that way, at the bare minimum, if anything happens in your life that is good or bad, then then you will be the reason for that.
What do you think is the key to your happiness?
Key to my happiness, man, is I've gotten to a point where I have achieved, now not at any perfect level at all, but I feel like I do have a very good level of self-love and self-respect first. And I realize that my health mentally and physically allows me to express that to other people. And knowing that I can be like a positive, a small positive part in other people's lives, keeps me happy. And of course, I mean, I just became a father, 5 months ago. And one thing they truly say is that there's a specific feeling that you get when you become a parent that you cannot get anywhere else in this world for as long as you live until you have a child. And my 5-month-old baby has been the easiest way to remain happy and be in such a happy mood 100% of the time.
Love it, man. What do you think makes a good friend?
Oof. I think there's two different versions to this. I've always agreed with both. The friend that kind of is there for you and is able to tell you the things that you want to hear, to kind of hold your hand through a better part of your life that you might be going through, having difficulties with, right? So a lot of people would say somebody who sugarcoats things so you can feel better about certain aspects of your life. I believe that it's necessary to have the ability to sugarcoat things so you can deliver a message to someone that needs to hear it in a specific way. But I also believe that a friend is someone who is able to tell you the harsh truth without worrying about your emotions, without worrying about you getting upset or offended, but being able to tell you exactly what needs to be said so that it can click a little bit harder. So a true friend is somebody who can be there for you whenever you need them and provide whatever type of help that it is that you're looking for, without you having to wonder, hey, is that person care about me, or is that person someone who I would consider my friend?
Well, Adrian, before I close this thing off, do you have any questions or comments you want to make before I put the bow on this thing?
No, man, not too much. Not you one thing that I've admired about you is that you've been able to just structure questions in a very good way, that allow you to kind of just progress through the conversation itself, and I like that a lot. I think you've asked a lot of good questions, and I don't think anyone's ever asked me these questions before in my life, to be completely honest with you. It's been believe it or not, Sam, I've always thought about these questions, and I've had conversations with myself about them, but no one's ever asked me this. So this is probably the first time I actually have this kind of conversation.
Well, I really enjoyed it, and I wanted to say thank you for being so open and honest with me and the listeners. And for the listeners, if you want to hear and watch what Adrian is doing, Jiggadrin, I'm going to put all your info in the show notes. So just look for the links, click, support him, follow what he's doing. Adrian, thank you so much for coming on the Feld podcast. I really enjoyed the conversation. I think there's a lot there that is going to help people. There was a lot of nuggets that helped me. And thank you so much for coming on the Feld podcast. And with that being said, guys, you know what I say, man. Just keep your head up. When you fail, don't quit. Keep learning. Keep moving forward. And just keep on going. And we'll see you on the next one.